Good afternoon, everybody. It is a little bit after 12. My clock says about 12:15, thereabouts. It is Thursday? That's right. Everybody on my North channels were saying, happy Thor's Day. Um, so it's Thursday. I haven't changed my calendar over here for a day or two, most likely because I have been so, not wound up. I wouldn't say wound up. I've been so busy. What is today? Today the 27th? Oh, pucker nuts. I forgot what today was. Um, yes, I just said something that you probably don't understand. Pucker nuts. Oh, pucker nuts. It's an expression from my teenage years, my ElfQuest comic enjoyments, and that was basically a form of cursing in the comic books. So I think today's the 27th. I'm not sure. I just know it's Thursday. I don't know what day it is anymore. My one perpetual calendar, my one calendar on the wall that we have to change out every month hasn't been changed since March. Why? I forget about it. Now that I come in this room on a daily basis, you'd think I would remember and go, oh, it's not March anymore, let's change it. Well, by the time we change it, it's going to be June. So, it's one of the joys about being, and not being unemployed, but being self-employed, is unless you're following a calendar or a weekly, monthly schedule, the days seem to blend together. Good thing about that is you don't know what day it is. Bad thing about that is if you have an appointment and don't program your digital assistants to tell you that you have a appointment or scheduled event or something like that, you forget. Jerry Ann is actually currently on the phone trying to work with the Mercy Medical Center to see our regular primary that we had last year. Goes to show you we haven't seen the doctor since January, when the government basically said, oh yeah, it's time for you to reapply for medical insurance, and they gave us this new unheard of medical insurance. And she wanted to get I'm sipping from two different cups, yes. She wanted to get a orthopedic appointment, which she doesn't need a referral for, but the only orthopedic doctors that she can see on this new insurance is either Springfield or St. Louis. Not even Jefferson City. It's Springfield or St. Louis. And I'm like, gee, man, at Christmas. So she's on the phone trying to work with the local Mercy Medical Group that we had our insurance with, to see how much it would cost out of pocket, or how we can finagle or work with our current insurance to see our primary that we had last year, because she was a really good doctor. She understood my philosophies and my opinions and feelings about artificial chemicals and the prescriptions that pharmacies can give that have chemical elements that can alter the body's chemistry, which I think is more harmful than the actual medication. She also understood my background, my opinions on psychiatrists and various other medical practitioners. So she was able to work with me on that level, which was awesome. I mean, I've never met a doctor who can work on it with an individual with their individual personal issues, or not opinions, personal. I can't think of the word all of a sudden. But she worked with both me and Jerry. She understood Jerry's ordeal with growing up as a fat person and having issues with weight loss, and she was very active as a young person and whatnot, until her knee accident back in mid 2000s. She was able to work with both of us on a personal level. You don't get very many doctors who can work with a patient on a personal level with their personal opinions or personal feelings or experiences. Um, so I was like, oh man, our new insurance doesn't operate. It doesn't work with her group. Maybe she can, provide us with information with somebody who isn't in the building that works with our insurance and can talk to her or get the records and whatnot for her and still have the same personal connection that she did. So I'm kind of like, and maybe because of the factor of her nationality or her upbringing and background, it makes it easier for her to work with people who prefer Eastern medicine over Western medicine, or holistic medicines over modern day prescriptions or modern day mass pharmaceutical companies. So it was kind of like nice to have her, and I excuse me, knock on mahogany, we can find somebody somebody who works with at the same level as she did. Of course, not trying to belittle or make fun of or be negative towards people, but she is Hindi from background, just from what little I know of her, between her name, her appearance, her dialect, her accent, and all the different things that I can use to identify where she came from. Now, whether she was born and raised in India or someplace like that. In fact, I think she did say she was from Bangladesh, or her family's from Bangladesh, or somewhere in India. But I'm finding more and more that people from foreign countries that come to America to study English study medicine in America, bring with them a lot of their background, and a lot of like people from China, Japan, India, even places like Saudi Arabia and those countries have a better grasp of understanding the difference between modern medicine and old school medicine, which makes it easier for me because then I can work with them and get them to understand where I'm coming from and my different studies and my body and the way my body works, and they don't try to use just textbook teachings. They use old school teachings with new school teachings, which I think is awesome. I think every doctor should go through a course in holistic medicines and the metaphysics of the body, not just the book thumping type learning. It's kind of funny because my dad used to say that somebody who has more street smarts than book smarts will do better in the world than somebody who has all book smarts. And yeah, okay, I can see that because I've definitely seen that in the world. My father was one of those atypical. He had a lot of street smarts, but he also had the education from the Air Force and what the Air Force taught him. And anybody who's ever met my father, God rest his soul, knows what kind of person my father was. My father was a family-oriented, fun-loving type of guy, but they also know that you cross his path and try to, do harm to his family, whether it was physical or psychological, you just poked a bear. And I don't mean just a bear. I mean like the bear of bears, the King Kodiak bear. He had no problems telling you where to go and how to get there, and even showing you if necessary. My father was not a violent person. He knew how to verbally tear a person apart, let alone be prepared to physically tear apart a person if necessary. Most everybody who met him, knew him, family members, friends of family, anybody who's ever dealt with my father, both professionally and personally, loved him. I can't say everybody professionally or personally loves me, but I don't know how I rank up there, because sometimes my family just, certain family members of my family is just kind of like, no, not today. Um, but anyhow, Jerry Ann currently is trying to set up another medical appointment, because she really wants to go see our primary doctor to get better information, because the I don't know how else to put it, but the P test showed negative bacteria, or negative issues that could show up in urine samples. So our next step is basically to sit down with the doctor, and she might have to do blood tests, because the blood test will tell you more than a urine test. She might have to actually go in for x-rays or anything like that, and depending on what we can do and how much it's going to cost us and blah blah blah, depends on a lot of different things. Right now, some of those things, especially if it's going to cost us extra money we don't really have, may force my hand into going back into getting a job. I've already got 3 jobs that I know about from Indeed.com that they're looking for immediate help, and other than that, I don't know if I'm going to have to cut this off or trim this. I'm hoping not. I'm hoping either I can wear some sort of beard net, hair net type situation, so I don't have to worry about that. A lot of the good businesses would do that. But I'm also learning through people that I know that work for certain companies that are looking for jobs. They don't care. They're not worried about this or this, as long as you can keep it groomed and contained. And 2 of them are non-food related jobs. 1 of them is, and the food related job said they're not worried about it. So it's kind of like one of those things where I gotta either start jumping on the ball when it comes to, like, maybe if I can start working harder for DoorDash and get more time, which is kind of hard to do, because it's either you got to be the first one to jump on the new schedule and grab a time slot, or figure out what times they are at their busiest moment, so you can just go out and start door dashing during their peak hours, which is when they're busiest. And Jerry's already talked about, we could do DoorDash together, where she would be the driver and I would be the runner, which would be awesome, because I can set up my phone on a little cradle in my car, my van, and she can hit the button to say picking up the order when I run inside to go get the order, or hit the button when it says there's an order to be picked up, you want to do it, and one of us can jump on it quickly. The quicker you jump on an order, the faster you get orders, and the more that you do, the more money you make. It's basically a good job for either college, high school kids after or during school breaks, weekends. It's good for retirees who just don't want to do a lot of hardcore standing or anything like that, which most jobs require of you to be able to stand or lift. Stand for so many hours and lift so much weight. And a lot of jobs nowadays are bending, squatting, stooping, climbing, stretching, things that a lot of the retirees cannot do because of joint problems. Excuse me. A couple of you had suggested trying to get a number of you said that there's a way that I could get paid to stay home because I'm basically the equivalency of a at home caretaker type person because I care for my mom and my wife. More my wife lately than my mom because mom, for the most part, the only thing she needs help with is cooking dinner, and she can cook herself, but not very healthy. I mean, last night we decided to do a fend for yourself type thing where you basically make your own food, primarily because we had leftovers in the refrigerator that I did not want to get spoiled, and I just didn't feel like cooking at the, because I was having a bad day yesterday. I mean, up until about 6 or 7 o'clock, I was having a bad day. So for the most part of the day, I just wanted to be left alone, did my own thing, did a lot of personal projects and whatnot just to that in factor. It was also a bad day for Jerry because I don't know if it was the weather or what was going on yesterday, but nobody in this house was feeling very good. Everybody was achy, joint problems. And after 8 p.m., I looked at the weather report for the day and I went, oh, I see why it was so bad yesterday, why, everybody was hurting. Barometric pressure was like 95% humidity plus the barometric pressure. It was like, yeah, okay. And I know why we had such high humidity and barometric pressure last night. We're under a severe thunderstorm watch until 7, 8 p.m. tonight. So it's like, that's what it was. And the thing is, this storm front that's hitting us caused some major tornadoes in Kansas that I haven't heard the full report, but there's areas of Kansas that got hammered, and I'm not going to go look at the reports to see how many what was destroyed, how much damage was done. People who have either been hospitalized or, unfortunately, it does happen every so often, died because of natural disaster like a tornado. But scientists are saying that this could be the worst year they've seen yet. I'm like, well, they said that last year. So basically what they're trying to tell me is things are getting worse every year. I'm like, Mama Nature's pissed and she's doing her thing to punish everybody, and it ain't going to stop until she's satisfied. Of course, when will she be satisfied? Or is this another precursor biblical type warnings of the end times? I don't know. I don't try to go there no more. I try to live my life as if it's going to be my last. Some days I don't do so good. Some days I do really good. Today I don't know. Today's plans is she wants to paint a nightstand that did we find it, or did we, or was it given? She wants to paint something, whether it's a nightstand or the jewelry armoire thingy that she exchanged with Mom. I don't know. I do know that things are going slowly here. We are working on a lot of our projects that we said we were going to work on this year. I think that's one of the reasons why Jerry Ann's trying to find ways to stretch the budget so I don't have to go back to work too soon. But I basically said to her, if we can't figure out if I have to go back to work by July or early August, it's going to be a real tough. It's going to be really tough for me to find a job locally, because if I don't find something by August, that's when the transition between the high school kids are going back to high school and the college kids are coming back in town. So I have that narrow window of trying to get a decent job between, high schoolers going back to school and college kids coming back into town because it's a college town. And, I was actually talking to one of my ex-coworkers who still works at Dickies, and they were telling me how difficult things have been the last couple weeks, especially since I was let go. It's become really difficult because the only other person who really works their tail end off is cut her hours down because she's getting a better job, which is awesome for her. And I was jokingly going, okay, so how soon or when can you get a hold of the owners of the store and convince them that it was a bad idea to get rid of me? And I was joking with them because I really don't want to go back to Dickies. They're getting more and more difficult catering orders, and their business is kind of like it was when I was working there, up and down, up and down. You never can tell what's going to happen each day until it happens. But the large amounts of catering orders that are coming into our store, because a lot of our stores don't cater like we do, are getting heavier. I went, well, yeah, of course it is. It's summertime. More and more people are wanting to have parties, but not everybody wants to do their own barbecue. Me and Jerry like to barbecue this time of year, especially if it's not too muggy or not too hot outside. And I love doing my own barbecues. I have no problem with barbecuing. I won't film it because factor, anybody who's ever filmed or watched a barbecue film, granted, they don't show you everything. So I heard a weird noise outside my window, and I went, what in the world is that? And couldn't tell if it was the wind blowing plant life or something against my windows or what. But I don't do barbecue videos for a multitude of reasons. One, it's really boring. I mean, the most part of the barbecue is getting your meat, prepping your meat, putting it on the grill, let it grill, flip it over, let it grill some more, and bring it inside. And we don't do anything fancy. I did tell Jerry Ann, though, that if I go to do barbecue the way I want to do barbecue, which I haven't done yet, I'm going to do it my dad's way. Only downside about that is I'm going to have to go out and buy maybe I can buy a single bottle. Go out and buy a single bottle of Budweiser or some sort of beer, and then use that for the part of the basting. Because my dad used to take just regular everyday barbecue sauce, add a little bit of beer to it, and go to town. I wonder if it would taste the same or different if I were to just use mead instead of going out and buy beer, because I've always got mead on hand. Always have at least one bottle of mead on hand. One of the things I do like about my little town is our local liquor store where I can get my mead on Wednesdays, which was yesterday. Oh man, I missed it. I should have. Well, I have mead. I can go there and buy 2 bottles of mead, which on any regular day is like $15 to $16 a pop, for the stuff that I normally drink. On Whiny Wednesdays is what they call it. I can get 2 bottles of regular generic mead, which will cost me about $25 for the 2 bottles. When one bottle of the really good stuff is $25 to $30 a pop. So that's all right. I'm not drinking as much as I used to because I'm not as stressed as I used to be. Yay! My stress levels are drastically lower. than they were when I was working. But at the same time, like any given day for somebody who has a lot of my medical, mental issues, um, and I'm going to give you a list of them here in a second, each day could be different. Like yesterday was a low day. Today feels like it's going to be a normal day. I've had my high days. It's kind of normal. A lot of people who have, and this goes back to ADHD, a lot of people who have ADHD do end up having psychological issues depending on the variances of ADHD or events that happen in their life. For me, and this is just me, my ADHD and hyperactivity hit a wall basically and spun out of control. And this started way back in the 80s after, the four family member 18-month period of time where I had four family members die. I ended up developing acute or severe depression, or as they put it, manic depression, which also caused issues like suicidal tendencies. One incident where, because of events that happened during a certain time frame in my life, I wanted to kill somebody, and they slapped that on my chart as homicidal tendencies. And it was just one brief incident that was a flash in the pan, because once that person was out of our lives, it went away. And I'm not going to talk about the person or whatnot because it's just not right. But yeah, I had especially manic depression. The suicidal tendency was at my lowest point. And no, I didn't try to cut myself or anything like that. I tried to literally, I did. I didn't try. I did down a whole bottle of aspirin. It's probably one of the reasons why I can't take mainstream aspirin like Tylenol, because I fucked myself up. Excuse my language. But yeah, because of those instances and those issues, I ended up spending 3 different time frames, 3 different slots of 30 days in a psychiatric hospital. Camelback Psychiatric Hospital, Phoenix, Arizona. And, spent 30 days in those hospitals. I mean, I wasn't in lockdown. I just couldn't leave the premises without either a parent or caretaker or family member to be with me. And most of the time, I didn't even leave. I just stayed there. I stayed there because the only place I had to go was back to my mom's house. And the problems, multiple, were living in that house with her. And, no. No. I knew better than to go back into a situation where things could get worse. The first time was before the problems, before the person or persons who caused me to become, as the psychiatric evaluator put it, homicidal. It was just manic depression with suicidal tendencies. Second time around was manic depression, suicidal tendencies with homicidal. I don't know if I would call it tendencies, but it's just like homicidal thoughts. Of course, I did have words that would have could have landed me in, if it was within the last 20 years, it could have landed me in a jail cell, because I basically threatened him very verbally. And, well, back in my late teens and 20s, I was a little bit of a head case anyhow. But that's all behind me. I've never had any other instances of wanting to hurt somebody. As for hurting myself, well, not in the sense of committing suicide, but just the fact of that it happens. Not that I planned it or anything like that. And yes, I still have bouts of depression and whatnot, but not so debilitating that I can't function or see my way through the problem. Everybody has some form of depression, even if it's not so severe that it puts them in a hospital, but it's severe enough to give them, how would I put it? Well, I had mine not too recently, this past weekend, because it was my, it would have been a, excuse me, that's a combination of lump in my throat and trying not to get overworked. But yeah, last weekend, on the 23rd, so 4 days ago, would have been my father's 80th birthday. And I had a bout. I had a run that put me kind of, not really decapacitated, but just made it harder for me to think through my problems. But, excuse me. I'm not gonna hide this. Nope, not gonna hide this. But yeah, it put me in a bad frame of mind where I just didn't want to do nothing, but I pushed through and did as much as I could, even though throughout the Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, it kind of put me in a rut. I think what pulled me out of that rut was the fact that Wednesday I got my American Cozy book, and I got excited about that because it was like, ooh, yes, this is a book that was suggested to me, and I've already read up to chapter 2, and the whole chapter 1 was just understanding what cozy was, the foundation of cozy, and I was just like, ooh, oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, I want to do that. I want to try that. Okay, that helps me understand a lot of stuff. So it was one of those eye-opening, like, ooh, I can understand what this person's talking about. They're not going off. They're not like I would. I love Hattie Hagee. I love that book. But the problem I was having with that book was what made it, she almost reminded me of me, because of the fact that she had a lot of, like, she's trying to go through this mainstream of what Hagee is and all the different things they do in Scandinavia, the Scandinavian countries, or the Nordic countries, mostly Norway. She was going off in various directions on, like, life experiences, which is great because, in fact, everybody's life experience is different and it affects them differently. And she was trying to show how she was using a lot of her life experiences from growing up in Norway, to help explain Hagee. But the problem for somebody like me who has ADHD and easily gets distracted and whatnot, going off the main topic so many times was confusing. So I was kind of like, okay, I think I understand her ideas. I think I understand what she's saying. I love the fact that she had bullet points to focus on for what she was trying to talk about throughout the chapter. But it was confusing for me. I've already read, like I said, I've already read the intro and chapter 1 of American Cozy, and there's not a lot of veering off track, going into different areas that are confusing. She's spot on. And I'm like, okay, author number 1, the author for Hattie Hagee, the Nordic Secret to a Happy Life, she doesn't understand people with ADHD and whatnot, so she's not staying on track. While author number 2, who did American Cozy, she talks a little bit in the very beginning about how she remembers her dad's family's house. It's very Danish and Hagee. And she's not veering off track to the point where it confused me. It was like, oh, okay. So you're remembering your grandparents' Danish style living in their house here in America, but you're not going off track. You're just pointing out the differences between how American families decorate their houses compared to how her Danish ancestry and her Danish family decorates their house, and you're trying to find a way to make a happy medium. Okay, okay, I understand that because I have that here in my house. I grew up with the military having basically very simplified, very minimalistic style and whatnot because we were moving every 3 to 4 years, compared to my wife who basically was born and raised in the house that she lived in up until Hurricane Sandy basically forced us out. So I can understand the two differences in trying to find a happy medium where it's not over decorated or over cluttered with furniture or decor or memories and whatnot. And I can understand how hard it must be for my wife to try to get rid of stuff that might be a memory trigger, because I lost a lot of stuff in Hurricane Sandy that were memory triggers. But the thing is I was so used to not having a lot of stuff for whatever reason. So my memory triggers are furnishings and pictures and stuff that doesn't take up a lot of room. And some furniture is good to have, like I try to explain to my wife, why do we need 3 dressers in our bedroom? Each of us should have 1 dresser. And if we cannot fit whatever clothes goes into that dresser, then we have too much clothes. So she literally downsized for 8 to 10 bags worth of clothes, garbage bags worth of clothes that we're going to either try to sell or give away if they don't sell. So she is downsizing. She is seeing my points and whatnot. So it's kind of like one of those things where it's like, and then, she's literally trying to do it because she understands the purpose and whatnot. And she's getting to the point where she's starting to feel a little claustrophobic with all the extra. So we're working on that. We have to go in our closet, and the other day I went into the closet to hang up some stuff that I have on hangers, clothing on mine on hangers, and I looked at the closet and I go, this seems very wrong. And she goes, what? I was like, you have literally, and I didn't count or anything like that, but I was just looking at it. So you have about, half to 3/4 of the closet of your clothing, and I have maybe a quarter or less of my clothing. And she pointed out, well, men usually have more dresser clothing than closet clothing because most men have maybe dress slacks, clothes that are more for like funerals and weddings and church events and things of formal type clothing, while most of men's clothing are not really formal and they can put it in a dresser, and women's clothing like dresses and whatnot have to go in a closet. I'm like, yeah, but my point is most of the clothing in the closet of hers, you hardly wear because we don't have any formal occasions to go to, and what few formal occasions we go to, we don't need, or she doesn't need, in my mind, all this extra clothing. She goes, well, yeah, but it's also like everyday dresses and slacks and, various types of clothing that most people would consider everyday, not fancy or formal. And I went, well, not to be rude, we don't always go out to any place that you need clothes from the closet. Most of your clothes that you pull out are in your dresser. But I wasn't trying to belittle her or anything like that, but I was just pointing out that maybe we definitely need to go through the closet clothing to see what we can downsize, because I'm pretty sure I've got a few pieces in the closet that I haven't worn in who knows how long and don't need that many of. But the only clothing that I have in the closet right now that I wear, except for the last couple of days, is my Renaissance clothes. And I'm sorry, I don't care what anybody thinks. I love them. They're comfortable. They're great. Um, I washed them the other day, and I went, ooh, maybe I should have line dried these, because one or two of them looked like they might have gotten a little small. And I'm like, well, live and learn. Next time I have to make sure I read the tag or know how I'm supposed to clean these before I actually clean them, because they might have said line dry. But Jerry goes, well, we can always make them stretch out. All we have to do is get them wet and then air dry them with a hair blower. And I went, no, I think the thing is that they're not supposed to get hot when they're drying. I think that they need to be just washed and then hung out to dry, like on a hanger or clothesline if the weather's not threatening the storm or stuff like that. So, like I said, live and learn. Granted, the two shirts that I really, really love, I got off of Wish. And I'm surprised they've held up this long, because a lot of stuff that I've gotten off of Wish weren't that great. I mean, yeah, I got a lot of stuff off of Wish for cheap that were nice and whatnot, and they held up. A couple of the rings that I got off of Wish, I can't wear because they look silver like this, but once I've worn them for too long and washed my hands with them on, they started turning green and started turning my finger green. In fact, this ring, which is a runestone ring, and I can't remember if I got it off of Wish or Amazon, has not tarnished, has not changed color, fits me perfectly, and I have to put my glasses on to really look at the runes themselves. But they haven't faded that much. They're etched in and not just painted on, and the etching hasn't worn down, which I think is awesome, because that means it's a good quality ring. So I'm happy with it. Put my glasses on so I can see how long this video is. Ooh, it looks like 42 minutes. Yes, folks, it is 42 minutes long, and I am sorry. I did not mean to be carrying on this long, but as you all know, when I start talking about subjects that I'm really interested in, I don't know when to stop. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Maybe I'll try to make a shorter one and see which one I want to put on. But anyhow, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, go ahead and put it in the question comment box. I do enjoy getting questions from you guys, because then I can write those questions down and do a Q&A one day a week. That would be awesome. I mean, the more questions I get, the longer the video would be, but to have an actual number of questions so I can sit down and do a Q&A video would be great. I did that once before, and I thought it turned out pretty well, but then it kind of stopped. Or I was just answering them as, on the comments, in the comment section. Anyhow, but yeah, I do appreciate your questions. So I look forward to any of those. If you're new to my channel and like this particular video, or liked any of the other videos that you might have seen in the past, and you finally make your decision to join, you hit the little subscribe button, and then once you do that, a little bell will pop up. You click on that bell, and YouTube will put in a notification when I have my next video up and running. Until next time, see you guys later. Bye.